Hello, Hayes. My boyfriend has a friend group that he's been close with for 20 years. He considers these friends like family, but a few years ago, tension started brewing. It came to a head when my father suddenly died 2 years ago, and one of the men in the group didn't say anything to me about it. No sorry for your loss, nothing. This then unleashed a fury of more conflict, with various people letting out every issue they've ever had with this man. They would frequently tell my boyfriend and I to get rid of him like an old sweater, and that they didn't want to be friends with him anymore. My boyfriend warned me that these friends sometimes don't mean what they say and are dramatic. I didn't believe him, and I thought everyone was being honest and earnest. Several months ago, though, we found out that the other people in the friend group had gone out for dinner with this man, invited him to their home to stay, and had frequently been staying in touch. I felt confused and a bit betrayed, as I thought they didn't want to be friends with him anymore, and they encouraged us to sever ties, which my boyfriend never wanted to. I told one of the women in the friend group that I was hurt by their behavior, including hers, and that it seemed like everyone was acting like fake friends. I've had a lot of issues with her in particular. She brushed off my concerns and said people speak in hyperbole, that they meant something different than what they said. Months later, the same woman confronted me, saying her husband is hurt that I said he was fake. She says he feels hurt because he was really there for me when my dad died. They came to the funeral, but other than that, they mostly just complained to me about their other friend's behavior. She wants me to speak to him and perhaps gather the four of us to talk about it. Her husband won't speak to me or my boyfriend directly. She also doesn't think she plays a role in any of the hurt that's been caused. I'm at a loss for what to do. I'm angry because I feel like my dad's death is being somewhat used against me, and that I'm the scapegoat for the real issues in this friend group. How could I have known they didn't mean what they said? I'd only known them for about 2 years, versus the rest of them knowing each other for 20. I also feel like they're looking for me to apologize for calling them out on their behavior. At this point, I'm exhausted from the back and forth. I don't think we can ever be friends in the same way again, and frankly, I don't want to be. What do you think, Hayes? Should I initiate a conversation with all four of us to talk it out? Or do you think this was a bit of a lost cause? Yours, fake friend foes. I mean, this is exhausting. This sounds exhausting. It sounds exhausting all around. And my hope today is that we can talk about like the art of staying out of it. Because I think that sometimes you have to involve yourself in other people's drama, and sometimes the people in your life and you are going to be creating tension, and you have to work it out and you have to get involved, and it's worth it to get involved. And then sometimes we take a back seat. Sometimes you got to take a back seat. And I feel like this is a time where I'm going to suggest to you to take a back seat. I want to talk about your dad and the funeral. I want to talk about why friend groups talk shit about each other and why people say things they don't mean. I want to talk about what you can do moving forward. But to start with your dad, first of all, I'm so sorry to hear about your dad passing, and I'm sorry that some of the friends in your life weren't there for you in the way that they should have been. Um, I'm sorry that that happened. I'm sorry that even your boyfriend's friends who did come, still made it somehow drama filled. Some people just like eat up drama, and I personally have no patience for it. I have no patience for it. And I just, oh God, to come to to talk to you at your own father's funeral about how upset they are that someone else isn't there for you. It's such a specific type of inappropriate, because on one hand, like, you might think that they're doing the right thing because they're sticking up for you. But how about deal with it privately? How about deal with it privately? If you want to hold your friend accountable, how about you hold them accountable outside of the mourning space? It sort of reminds me of like, I don't need my friends to tell me that someone else is talking shit about me. I only want to have friends that I can trust that they would handle it. They'd handle it privately and I don't need to know. And B, that like people would not be talking shit about me to them because they know that my friend would never stand for it. So they'd be scared to ever mutter something inconsiderate. I completely understand why you would feel hurt that this person in your boyfriend's life never acknowledged your father's death. It's really strange behavior. Granted, I don't know the ins and outs of the friend group. My husband has a gigantic friend group too, and I'm imagining. It's funny. It's sorry. Funny is not the right word. Funny is not the right word. There's so many different types of grief and loss, and the loss of a family member is such a clear and obvious one that it sometimes shocks me that people wouldn't know what to say. Because I'm trying to imagine, I have not experienced the death of an immediate family member. I have experienced other major forms of loss, and certainly not everybody in my husband's friend group has acknowledged that to me. but it's different because perhaps they would. Perhaps I imagine they would, but maybe not all 20 actually. Like maybe not every single person. I'm trying to suss out here whether it's a reasonable expectation to think that every single person in your boyfriend's friend group would speak to you about this, or if it's you have every right to be upset, but it's not necessarily a reason to cut somebody out. But I think it's beside the point. It's beside the point because this person, it seems that there's more to this person that people don't like and that you dislike than just the fact that he didn't acknowledge your father's death. But I'm saying all of that because I want to validate you. I get why you don't like him. I get why you don't like him. I wouldn't like him either. And I would probably not want to be his friend anymore. Like I wouldn't care to talk to him. I'd probably ignore him when I'm out. Like I would do all of those things, all of the above. Now, for friend group dynamics, listen, everybody's going to have a different opinion on this and different, we all interpret social situations differently. So I'm coming to you as someone who has some social anxiety, but like I'm pretty good at reading social situations. I might overinterpret some things sometimes, but what this seems to me, how do I say this? People say things they don't mean all the time. And I understand why you and why maybe some other people who maybe think like you, and I'm not trying to secretly put a label on you. I'm just saying I think other people would think like this. They take what other people say at face value, especially when it's a criticism of somebody else, a valid criticism of someone else. But there are people out there who talk shit and, to your point, never want to be held accountable for their shit. And they do it as a form of venting, not as um, not as something that they ever intend to take action on. So I can see why they would say things like I don't want to be friends with him. He's changed so much. He's such a shitty person, but then never actually plan on doing anything about it. And I understand from your perspective why that's unacceptable. I can totally understand why you might never want to, you're like, why would I want to be friends with people who don't say what they mean? And that is your prerogative, and girlfriend, like me too. I don't want to be involved in stuff like this also, but it doesn't surprise me. And I don't think there's anything wrong with you for not knowing that. You said, how could I have known they didn't mean what they said? Well, your boyfriend did tell you. Your boyfriend did tell you, you said, that your boyfriend told you that they're often dishonest and that they don't say what they mean. But still, I now you know. Now you know that they talk shit. And honestly, if they were talking shit about him, they're probably talking shit about lots of people. I always wondered that. Like, if you're so comfortable talking this way about, especially like in a group setting, it's such a red flag to me when in like a group of friends, the entire table could be like talking about somebody else. It's such a red flag to me. I don't think it's wrong for them to criticize this friend, like this man. I don't think that's what's wrong, the criticism of the man. But what feels icky to me, and maybe what's feeling icky to you, is like the group conversation about it and then just being like, and then continuing to invite him to things like that. Not to feel bad for the guy who we're accusing of being a dickhead here, but like that sucks to know that no people are talking about you and they're all saying they don't like you, but then they continue to invite you over. I wouldn't want to be friends with people like that. Um, so I don't want to say you're overreacting. However, I don't think this is worth your time, your energy, or your like fixing. I don't think this is something you need to fix. And I want you to depersonalize it a little bit. Um, I think the key here is to depersonalize it and to not insert yourself into their problems. Now, that's not always the right thing to do. And maybe, like, I don't think that advice is passive aggressive, and I don't think that advice is being a people pleaser because not everything requires a confrontation. And I think that we can. Confrontation is important, and I would maybe recommend that you do get more involved in the situation if these were people that you like really needed or wanted to build relationships with. And maybe they are. Like, I know your boyfriend's been friends with them for 20 years. So these are like, I don't know how old you are. These could be high school friends. A lot of people I know have friends from the past that are very casual, very loose, and they come to the weddings and they love them, but like it's okay to just tolerate them. Like it's okay if you don't agree with them on every single thing. It's okay if you don't love spending time with them. But is that what's happening here? Like, are these people who you think you can just kind of ignore, or are these your only friends? Like, by being your boyfriend's girlfriend, are these the only people that you're going to socialize with? And if that's the case, then I actually think we have a bigger issue here. And the issue then becomes like you and your boyfriend figuring out your social life. I think it's completely fine for couples, by the way, to have different friends. And there could be a world where you're like, look, if they're in your life, that's fine, and I can tolerate them in these types of ways, and maybe I can build one-on-one friendships with these certain people, but like they're not ever going to be my people. Is that too harsh? I hear you, and I respect that you're like, I don't know how we can go back from this once the line's been drawn in your head. But where could we maybe be more flexible? Where could we be more flexible? I think that the way to be more flexible is thinking about who in the group you do like, and maybe trying to build friendships with them. So it's okay to like write off the idea of the group as a whole, perhaps. But if there are individuals, it might be worthwhile for your relationship and for your social life to kind of build friendships with some of the people in the group who you can tolerate and who maybe weren't involved in this drama. But really, that's not even the main point I want to talk about. Like, I just want you. I'm curious why. I'm curious why this upset you so much. Not because I think it's wrong that it upset you, but I guess it's shitty friend behavior, but it doesn't feel surprising to me. And I want to understand more about why it feels surprising to you. And maybe that's a question that you can answer for yourself. Is this because in the past you haven't had conflict among friends like this? Is it because your communication style is so direct? Is it because you struggle to interpret social cues sometimes? What is it? And why does this feel like something you need to fix? Um, is fixing, like, is this a role that you take on often? You don't need to fix your boyfriend's friend group's problems. Like, full permission to take a back seat here. But I'm curious about the pattern, if there's a pattern here in your life, because you don't need to be fixing other people's stuff. And this to me, outside of the fact that some of it started because of the way that one of the guys didn't acknowledge your father's death, this seems like something that you could take a back seat on. So why are you involving yourself? Why are you at the center of it? Oh my God, now this woman, I'm glad I'm looking at your letter again. I almost would have forgotten this detail. One of the women told her husband what you said, and now the husband's hurt that you're fake. My God, this is exhausting. The, of course you can't, of course you can't have, of course you wouldn't want to be friends with this person. You told her something in confidence. It doesn't sound like you were talking specifically about her husband, and then she like made it into a thing, and now the husband, this is like baby behavior, I think. This is so childish. I don't think the feelings are childish of like being upset that someone thinks you're fake, but the like telling your wife and the wife telling you, and we're playing, what is it? We're playing telephone here about our feelings. Sorry, I know I'm being really, I just find this, I find this, I find this exhausting. And I understand why you're at a loss for what to do. I understand why you're upset that your dad's death is being brought up again. The husband's audacity to say, I was there for you when your dad died 2 years ago. How could you be saying I'm not a good friend? Please, that's not what friendship is. Friendship is not, I do one good thing and therefore I'm excused from all bad behavior for the rest of our relationship. No. And it sounds like coming to the funeral is sort of the bare minimum in a friendship. Doesn't sound like he was really there for you. It sounds like he attended the funeral. And I don't want to minimize that. I know that that is the law and it's more than a lot of people do. But please, please, I would do nothing here. I would say, I'm sorry you feel that way. I don't want to have this conversation anymore. And then I would myself make an effort to remove myself from the drama. So that means not commenting on other people's relationships, not confronting. It's like I just don't really get, and I'm not blaming you or even criticizing you. I don't really understand confronting things with people whom you don't want to be friends with. What is the point? Let it go. And perhaps this will make you more closed off around them, but I think it's part of life. I think that sometimes we have to tolerate being around certain people who we don't like, and it would be exhausting if every time we were around them we were like confronting them about the shitty thing they said, or asking them follow-up questions when they were doing something wrong, or calling them out on their weird behavior to their other friends. Does that make you like a bystander in the friend group? I'm not really sure. But I think in this case, I don't think you need to, I don't think you need to do anything more. I don't think you need to initiate a conversation with all four of you. Also, these are your boyfriend's friends. Let him, like, I know some people feel very strongly that, like, in a relationship, when there are issues with either one person's friends or one person's families, that it's that individual in the relationship's responsibility to talk to them. So, like, if I was having an issue with my in-laws, my husband should talk to them on our behalf, and that's not my problem. I think I largely like agree with that sentiment. I wouldn't say it all the time. I wouldn't say I always agree with that. But in this case, like, what's your boyfriend's role in all of this also? And if people are being mean to you, or if people are creating problems with you, I would want my boyfriend to play a role and stand up for us to his friends. You might have different, you might feel differently about it. Maybe you feel that your boyfriend has done enough and it's not his problem. But I'd be looking to him too. Maybe the bigger thing to do is to say, I don't think you could send a text and you could be like, hey, you could send a text directly to the husband if you really want to be ballsy. Let's say the other woman's name is Kara. Okay, I'm just making that up. You could say, hey, Kara mentioned that you were hurt that I brought up how I felt. How could we say this? How could we say this? I'm going to type it out for a second. You know what? Never mind. I started to type it out and I'm like, I don't even think this is worth it. The text I started to write was like, hey, Scott, Kara mentioned you were hurt by my comments about the friend group. I do feel it was dishonest of everyone to talk about Jeff and then pretend everything was normal. But then as soon as I got to the but, I'm like, what's the but? I don't think there is any but here. If you did something that you feel sorry for and you did something that you wish you handled differently, I think you could apologize for that. You could say, Kara mentioned you were upset, and I'm sorry I didn't bring this directly to you. But you're not sorry, and you don't care about maintaining a friendship with Scott, so I would just let this go. And my biggest thing for you outside of this specific challenge is, gosh, I don't want to say like don't take what people say so seriously, but maybe don't take what everyone says so seriously, especially when they're venting or when they're talking shit. And you're allowed to not want to be friends with those people, but I would hate to see you be disappointed time and time again when you are just faced with some of humanity's serious flaws. Also, also, did you cut this guy off? I know you said part of why you're upset here is because they were convincing you to get rid of this guy and that your boyfriend didn't want to. Well, then why did you? Maybe this is a moment too to look inward and be like, we make our own decisions, and I'm not going to let other people convince me of what choices I should make in my life, because I know that their advice, they would not apply that same conviction to themselves. And that is why it's so important to not just take anybody's advice and not trust everything we hear, and really consider who we're listening to. Really consider who we're listening to, because people be spouting shit off all the time without thinking about it. And I say that as a person who, answers advice letters. You got to think critically before you make big decisions in your life. Think really critically about who you're making the decision for, why you're making it. Am I only doing this based on something somebody said? It's kind of interesting. Do you guys feel like I give advice on this podcast? Sometimes I know it's a little different week to week, and my tone is a little different depending on the episode and whatever. Because I sort of Do I tell, like, how often do you think I'm telling people what to do versus just talking something through? I'm definitely trying to do the latter. I probably, not accidentally, but I probably end up giving direction sometimes when maybe I am starting off by just talking something through. And I know that my opinions will sometimes come through louder than others because sometimes I have stronger opinions. But I've been kind of, it's something interesting I've been thinking about as I think about the concept of advice and what this work is. And I call it an advice column, but like, is it an advice column? What do you guys think advice is? Uh, for me, the best advice is not a directive of what to do. It's talking about, it's helping me as the person looking for answers see things from another perspective, um, understand my own feelings about the topic so that I can make a better decision. Now, sometimes I do want someone to tell me what the fuck to do. And I guess that's advice also, but I don't think it's the kind of advice I do here. Just curious what you guys, as I'm talking to us about being so critical about where we get our advice from and who we listen to, I'm just curious for your guys' thoughts on what it is I'm doing here. And if we didn't call it advice, what would we call it? It's just a conversation, a letter. I mean, it's advice. What is it? What is it? These are the big existential questions. Okay, letter writer. Oh, I do feel that for I do feel that for honesty's sakes, the moniker this week, fake friend foes, I made that up. And it's not very good, but I made it up because I got to the end of the letter and I saw that I guess I forgot to copy it over, and I didn't want to go back into my inbox because then I was worried my attention was going to be hijacked by everything on the internet and in my inbox. So I made it up, and I got to tell you, it's not my strong suit, making up the names. Titling things in general is not exactly my strong suit, but I'm gonna talk about that for a second in part two. Um, Thank you for writing in. If you'd like to send me a letter, it's hellohayesbusiness@gmail.com. If you like the show, if you listen to it, please give us a 5-star review. Give me, you and I, a 5-star review on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. It's really a meaningful way to get the show into the hands of new viewers. And I will see you all next week. Thanks for hanging out with me. Bye.